there. This is Joanne Boulay.
And I'm Dylan Musgrave, and we're with Remax Fairley Realty here in beautiful Truro, Nova Scotia.
And this is our 6th podcast.
That's crazy. We were just talking about this, like we'll have to look at seasons. Like how many episodes should be in a season? 10, 15?
40?
14? Well, like if we're like, are we going to break it up into 4 seasons a year? Or
We
how
could
we
do like
that?
Quarters.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Because we track in real estate, we track everything by quarters, right?
Yeah.
So
Once every 3 months. So every 12 episodes, which that would work.
yeah.
That'd be interesting, and we could do something special for each season ender or season opener.
Well, speaking of something special, we do have a guest coming next week, so that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, she's extremely knowledgeable in this industry, and I think she's going to be an asset to have on our podcast.
Absolutely.
We're really excited, and I feel bad because we're going to bombard her with a ton of questions, and she's going to have a good time.
Yeah,
we're all going to have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So word of the day. What's our word of the day?
So we're going to use the word competing. We're going to kind of, I guess, branch off into a bunch of other things with this word. But competing is something we do a lot in this industry, whether it's competing offers or competing for listings or whatever. Competition is always huge, right? So we want to talk about some things that you can know and things you can do to give you an upper hand when competing, let's say, in an offer. And vice versa. Things that you shouldn't do when you're competing in an offer, or things that you may not have a choice, but it may hurt your offer regardless, especially if you're competing.
Yeah.
Like during the past almost 3 years, no one could get away with selling a house if it was in their offer. If they were competing,
home sale was not even a word up until about a few months ago, I would say. And I know there was a lot of new agents that had come into the industry in 2020 that never had to do a home sale because it wasn't even an option.
Right.
But they were able to. Buyers are now able to do home sales, I think, and get away with that.
Well, I just completed one last month and a half ago, and I have 4 clients right now where if we can pull the trigger and get something, their house is on the market.
Yeah,
right?
which will bring more inventory, which is what we need.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I think there's a big kind of, we'll say, buffer of people ready to do that, ready to sell their home and get into something. Because during COVID, I mean, the reality is there were a lot of COVID babies. And on the flip side of that, there were also a lot of, I think, divorce. I was reading, this isn't the States, but divorces were up like 33% over the past 2 years.
Let's remember, like, we're back into kind of a normal world now.
Yeah.
As normal as it can be after COVID. We were locked in our houses.
Yeah.
We weren't even allowed to go for a drive. And if you drove to a park, they'd tow your car. We weren't allowed to cross county, and that was in the first part. The next year, we weren't allowed to cross the county lines. So that was interesting. So, like, we were pretty much locked down with whoever you lived with, and you were working from home. The kids were going to school from home, so lots of stress. I'm
not like an anti-COVID person, but just hearing that, it's like, wow, they really did that.
How did they get away with that?
I mean, like, listen, I'm not gonna pull like an Andrew Tate and get super anti-COVID and anti-vaccine and blah blah blah. But like, really looking back at it, the reality is, it's like they really, like, we had not rights, but like we had to stay home. We had no choice.
We had no choice, and we had to wear masks, and we had to do this, and had to get. Well, remember, people that weren't vaccinated weren't allowed at restaurants.
Well, people who weren't vaccinated were losing their job.
There is that too. Yeah.
People who refused to get the vaccine were terminated.
And now they wonder why we have an issue in healthcare, right? Like those were healthcare workers that weren't allowed to work.
Yeah, it's nuts. But anyway, back to getting to the topic. So Dre mentioned home sales. Okay, what's a home sale? When you own a house, and like I said, let's say you're in either one or two of those groups where you have a COVID baby or 2, because you had a timeline there where you could have had 2. Or let's say the other unfortunate side, let's say you're splitting up and you need to go somewhere else. Yeah. During COVID, I mean, everyone knew every house had 15 offers on it, right? Yeah. So when you're competing in an offer, you need to make sure your offer is as strong as possible. Now, how a home sale clause works in Nova Scotia, or I guess we should use the term sailor buyer's property is the correct industry term. You make an offer and it says, listen, this is my address. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have it sold by this date. Now, it's not accepted offer. It's sold, which means the conditions are satisfied, right? So sold by this date, and my offer is contingent on that. Typically, when you have an offer with normal conditions, it gets accepted. Yep. And congratulations, you're conditional. There's a clause in the sale of buyer's property schedule, though, that allows the seller to continue to have showings, which means even though your offer gets accepted, that house is going to stay active on the market, and they're going to continue to have showings.
Yeah.
So
it allows them to continue to market the property.
Exactly. So if you were one of 15 offers with the home sale and some miraculous reason you got it accepted, you have 14 people like bowling pins trying to knock you down one by one, and eventually one of them's going to do it, right? So you never could get away with it during COVID. You never could, right?
So with now that where you can, once you get your offer accepted, you have so much time in the escape clause. They put, I don't know, we're not using days, but they use hours. So typically, if you're lucky, you get away with 72, 48, 24 scenario. I've seen 12.
Yeah.
And what would happen is if the seller accepted another offer on their property, it would be contingent upon your offer terminating before it would become firm and binding.
That's right, yeah.
So what would happen is the seller would serve you notice the minute the offer is accepted, and then you'd have 12, 24, 72 hours, whatever is agreed upon in the agreement, to either do one of two things. Terminate the deal, or you can remove the home sale clause, but you have to provide a letter from a financial institution showing that you can have the two mortgages.
That's right. So, and if you can't prove that, then you're also going to terminate anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's very fickle. Like I have some phenomenal clients, and I was explaining to them this weekend. Unfortunately, their offer didn't get accepted, but I was like, listen, it's not like another offer comes on the table and you can just increase your offer.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You have one or two options, like Joanne just said. So it's not like this offer comes in, oh, well, I'm just going to bring my offer up $40,000. You can do that, but that clock is still ticking. And
absolutely.
If you can't get one of those two things done, you're out of the game, right?
Absolutely. And so I think the key thing is if you have a home sale offer, some of the tips we could give you on getting it accepted and keeping the sellers happy, because I was in a situation once where I had the buyer on the outside. So there was an accepted offer on a home sale. I had a buyer. We went in and offered them asking price with normal condition dates, like 2 weeks for financing and inspection, the closing they wanted, and they said no. We want $50,000 more, and we want your condition dates met in like 3 days or something. I can't remember what it was, but what it was they loved the buyers that they had. Like they kind of became attached to them, and they had also gone through the inspection and stuff on the buyer side there. So, you know, when a seller looks at, you know, this new offer, and they already know the buyer on their house is satisfied with the inspection or the water test or whatever. And you have your house in the market, and they know your house, and they feel like they like you, sometimes that will happen too. So how do you get into that place? Because if you have a home sale, that's where you want to be. You want your sellers to really like you. So I think the first thing would be to offer them a good price.
A good offer, right?
A good offer.
Period.
Good offer. So what would that be? Price, good deposit?
Yeah, strong deposit.
Strong deposit. Meet your conditions right away, but this is what you run into risking when you have a home sale offer. So it might take a month and a half to sell your house, say, or a month, whatever that may be. Normal condition dates for inspection, water test, that sort of thing are within usually your first 2 weeks. So you could spend the money on the inspection, the water test, whatever other things you're doing. It might cost you $1,500. And if someone comes along and bumps you out, you're just out that money. Right?
And there's no recouping it, right? Now, maybe that new buyer would want a buyer inspection, but at the slim chance they would want to do that, you're also not selling it back for the full price, right? So you run a huge risk there. And that's why, like, for me, if I have an offer with a home sale, I'm either like have the trigger ready to pull with the listing, like it's
because they run into this other situation. They don't want to put their house in the market till they find something. Because they don't want to end up homeless.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right?
And it's a constant.
Well, because like once again with this fantastic couple, they were like, well, you're telling me if I just listed my house and we got an offer accepted, then we wouldn't need to do this. I was like, exactly. Yeah. Right. But then you do that, and the unknown's always scary, right? Like you could ask for a 120-day closing. Yeah. But what if something doesn't come on the market? Not that something doesn't come on the market, but something you really love doesn't come on the market. Because these guys are only selling because they don't need to. No. They don't need to. It's pure convenience for them, right? So they're not going to just throw it on the market to just
I've got a couple I'm working the same thing, and you know they said we have to find the right house. We find it, we'll get our house on the market right away, and we're ready to go. But it's again that unknown. Now, one thing you could do, probably not for a long time, but you could put in your agreement of purchase and sale on the house that you're selling that it's conditional upon the sellers getting a firm offer on something else, right, to protect them. It's a little different than the way things are normally done, but I've done it before and it's worked out. So that's an option as well.
You usually won't get away with that with you probably won't get away with that most times, but you never know. Right?
You never know, right? Like
Yeah.
I've done things where you don't know unless you ask. And sometimes if you're giving the seller an offer that they like and they like you, another thing I would say is, and we're going to get into this on how to make a competing offer, is write them a letter so they know a little bit about you. Send some pictures.
That works so well.
Yeah.
So well, right?
Yeah, because some people, they've really taken care of their home over the years and they've maintained it. They want to know a nice family's going to move in, or a couple or single, whoever it is, but whoever's moving in is going to kind of carry on that legacy, right? Because some of them have been in their homes for 40 years.
Well, and it's very sentimental, right? And you want to make sure, because it's not just the home, but the neighbors, right? Like, even though you're selling your house, you're starting to be in touch with your neighbors, and you don't want your neighbors having some unpleasant new neighbors, right?
Door,
so, like, it's so many things that really takes into consideration.
Yeah.
But, like Joanne just said, letter. So you may think, well, what do you mean a letter? I have had situations where I have not had an offer that was $20,000 less than the top offer get accepted.
Yeah.
Because they wrote a letter.
Seriously. That's
Saying, hey, we can envision our family living here, blah, 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 blah. And they were serious. It wasn't a lie. But just this letter that went along with it, the seller saw it, and now I think what really kind of had the gravy on everything was, it wasn't, typically the sellers and buyers don't interact with each other. In this instance, they did. So the sellers met my clients and they hit it off on the get-go. So then when they saw this letter, they were like, okay, this is good. This is good. So,
and it's also sometimes if they know some of the same people.
Yeah.
I sold a place out in East Prince, and we wrote a letter, did the same thing, and like their fathers used to be friends.
Yeah, right.
And her sister lived up the street, and like all the connections. And I think when you can put a face and a name, and you can have that connection, like what do they say? Where how many people apart from each other? Like 6 or 7.
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
right.
And it just takes that, like, you got to think about it. It costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Chat GPT, it'll take 30 seconds. You should write it from the heart, but if you really wanted to, just chat GPT it, and it'll be done in a minute, right? So, but that's one thing, and it's unique because it's nothing in the offer. You're not doing anything to the offer at all, but you're writing a sincere, heartfelt letter, right?
Absolutely.
And that really resonates. Some people don't care. They're just like, just show me the offer. Because people understand also, the reality is that people do abuse that, right? But still.
And I had a client once that didn't want to see the letters.
Yeah.
He was too sentimental. Like he said, if I see them, I'm going to feel bad for, I might feel bad for one or for the other, and maybe it's not the highest offer. He said, this transaction, he had really soft heart. He said, this transaction has to be purely business. Mm-hmm. So he refused to look at them, which is fine too. That's his prerogative, right?
Which at the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean, like, you're selling your house. If you
most 9 times out of 10, the letter is absolutely what people need to see. It just also gives us a feeling of who you are and like what you're like. If you can get across someone like maybe kind of like what your morals are and who you are as a person at the core, I think that helps them pick someone over the other. Because I know I had 2 offers the other day on a house, and they were very, very close. How do you pick one? Right? How do you pick one? That's pretty tough.
You flip a coin.
You
like,
flip
what
a
do you
coin.
do?
And they were
right?
two different agents. So let's talk about home sale. I think that's probably everything on home sale, eh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, the biggest thing to keep in mind is with a home sale, it can be a very stressful time.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, if you go with buying a property first, you are gonna have your house in the market while the property you have accepted on is still active, right?
Right.
Which in one scenario, your house could be on the market, you could do your conditions, you get an accepted offer on your house, you're working through your conditions, someone bumps your offer here, so now you are no longer on contract on something, but your house has an offer that you can't really walk away from.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's like one, like, maybe not a long shot, but that's one out of many, many, many possibilities. So it can be difficult, but it can be done, and you got to think at the end.
Kind of find the right property to write a home sale on.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's something that it's going to be very unlikely you're going to get something that's hot to market and popping. But if you have something that's been sitting on the market for a little while and you make them an offer, that might work out better because people have already had their chance to kind of have their paws at it, right? So.
Well, and Joanne just makes a very good point with that. Once again, back to COVID, if you're competing on a property, you're not going to get accepted with a home sale. Like, I will never tell you don't bother. I think there's always a...
Well, because there is a chance. Like, if
100%.
the pricing's right and everything kind of lines up with the dates, and like, sometimes people want a quick closing, but sometimes people want a really long closing. So if the seller has to wait till August to move, home sale might not be so bad. Because if someone else needs to move right away, and here's the other thing is you don't know what the other offers are when you offer, and they could all be home sales.
And that's the thing. And I can't say, but we were competing this weekend with a home sale, and it was a strong offer. Like, we had a strong offer, and it didn't get together, right? So like, and I don't know, but it could be just because of the home sale. So it can get very defeating, right? Because you can 2 to 3 properties, and once it's also, and you have zero control on this. It's how the seller sells it, right?
Yeah.
It's how the seller portrays the scenarios. Like, it's either, oh, this is a home sale, your property could be pending for 4 weeks, or yeah, this is a home sale.
But it's up to your agent to sell your property.
Oh, 100%.
Like, right? This is a great property. We're ready to go. No problem selling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing.
But even then, if the seller, because I think, once again, I don't know, but if the listing agent doesn't not necessarily sell it, but if it's like your property's pending for 4 weeks versus your property's pending for 4 weeks, but you have all the power in the world to accept another offer if you want. Like, nothing. Like, the way I look at it, if you have a home sale offer, there's no reason not, as a seller, there's no reason not to take it. No. Because you could just accept another offer that's better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the awesome thing with a home sale is with the second offer you get, it's just a brand new offer. So you can, like Joanne said, you can counter it $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over asking. You can do whatever you want to it.
Because you already have the other one there, right?
It's like a backup.
And it's kind of like the other offers that are coming in are kind of feel like they're competing a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what the other offer is. Nothing's disclosed.
Exactly.
So it kind of puts you in a really good position, I think, to take a home sale offer.
Yeah. So as a seller, it gives you a second shot at trying to get more money, essentially, right? Yeah. Same with backup offer. Backup offer, you have a second shot to try to get more money, right? So I think that's pretty much it with home sale, though. We probably talk about what the more meatier conversation, a competing offer.
Right. So I feel like the market's changed a little bit. We're still having competing offers, but it's not COVID competing.
No. Well, I mean, like, we're still seeing.
Because you came right into the swing of like the crazy competing offers, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of us did. Like, it was insane.
Well, and you're...
Sorry, it was complicated.
Complicated, yeah. You're 100% right in the fact that, like, we will see maybe 4 or 5 offers on a property.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe it sells for $20,000 over asking.
Yeah.
Right?
And that, or sometimes it's selling under asking. I've had competing offers on things where they've come in under, and they both come in close, or you have one that comes in very close and one that comes in just a little bit over. So, like, I think it depends on your price point, probably too.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny because I presented an evaluation last week, and I'm moving forward going into this, not new market, but this different market we're going to. Because now, the reality, I mean, you never should have, but most people would expect to get competing offers, right? Yeah. Now, not necessarily. So the way I presented this evaluation, I said, listen, we have 2 different prices we can go at. We can either go, I call it the aggressive price, and the aggressive price is, we have a great chance to get competing offers, or we can go with the more concrete price. And the concrete price, we could get full ask. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But at the end of the day, even if you get a little under ask, it would still be more than the aggressive amount. Right? So 2 price points, either way could work. You either go the aggressive route and try to get competing. Yep. And once competing, like, it's the gravy train. Once you get one offer, everything's blind, right? Or let's say this is 300 and this is 330, right? That 330 really goes to 320. What if they're competing with the 315? You still would have got more money with the 320, right? So I think it worked great, and I think going forward I'm going to kind of have that layout of we need to do this or this, because competing offers are still a thing, but it's really the price point.
Absolutely.
Really the price point. Like, you could overprice something in COVID, and not always, but you have a good chance to get competing offers. Not anymore. It will sit. It will sit and will sit. We've been seeing that.
Yeah, because things have been sitting in the market for, I think our average days went up to 34, 35 for the first.
It was 26 and a half for April.
For April, yeah. Which is more than what it has been previously, right? Last
April it was, I think it was 22. So keep in mind, the days on market, what this means is list to sold. So that's not list to accepted offers. So it includes the condition dates. Right. So you're thinking, holy crap, 25 days, like, that doesn't sound right. A house could be in the market for 7 days and then have 2 weeks for conditions. That's 7, 14, 21 days, right?
And really what we say is 6 to 8 showings, no offer, you've overshot your price point.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like, look at your feedback too, right? Like, if one showing feedback says overpriced, sure. If the second one overpriced, sure. But if you have like 3 consistent feedbacks, or like this is too much money, then it's like, okay, let's figure out what the game plan.
We overshot it just a little bit, and let's new price, maybe an open house if the house is empty.
Mm-hmm.
And new marketing, a little marketing, and away you go, right?
But once again, just because someone says it's overpriced doesn't mean they're not going to write an offer on it.
That's true. That's true.
And I don't know about you, but I think I've with a lot of listings recently.
Well, we're supposed to say it's overpriced. We always say it's overpriced.
So we have an app called Showing Time, and we get feedback on that. Almost every feedback I've got, it says overpriced, and then 6 hours later, I have an offer roll on my email.
Yeah. So they're just saying that to try to gauge a reaction. I know I had one agent, they're like, yeah, my clients wouldn't pay any more than X, and they were just fishing to see if I'd say, oh yeah, come on, write an offer. Yeah. I said, okay, thank you. Right?
And then they probably wrote, maybe not.
No, not on this one, but
no.
We'll
but it's happening, right? So, okay, why don't we talk about then, let's pretend I made an offer already, okay? I have an offer on this beautiful house, and you want to write an offer.
Yeah.
So, what would you tell your clients that things they should do, not to put themselves at a disadvantage necessarily, like waiving conditions when they shouldn't, but other things they can do to kind of improve the offer?
So you haven't accepted an offer on a house?
Yeah, so no. So we're competing. So I have an offer on a property, so I'm offer number 1, and your clients want to make an offer. So
offer number 2.
You're the offer number 2, you're competing. So what are some tips?
Okay, so the first thing I would ask the listing agent is, what is the seller's preferred closing date? Yeah. Because sometimes closing date means more than money to a seller, depending on what they're doing or where they're going. So that's the first question I would ask. And if my buyers can work with that, we make that happen. Number 2 would be a high deposit. Yep. So, I mean, it could be anything, but the more you can give in an offer situation, the more serious it shows you are. It's more of a psychological thing, but it also shows the seller that you're super interested in the property.
Oh yeah. 100%. And just off track on, I think we talked about this before. What kind of deposit should people be looking at when you're saying serious deposit? Like, let's say we're talking this house theoretically is $400,000.
Oh, I do the minimum of 10.
Yeah.
20 if you can, 25 if you can, but minimum of 10,000 at that price point.
And keep in mind, there's also too much of a deposit, right? Like, I've had people say, I want to put $50,000 down. Like, whoa, let's backtrack, because like at the end of the day, like I think if you have 20, anything more, it's just too much. Because you got to keep in mind, like, life happens. What if you get the offer accepted and it's firm, and something tragic happens in your life and you can't move, and guess what? You just lost your $50,000 deposit.
Yeah, I would never advise that's too much.
No. So there is too much. But yeah, 20 like
10 to 20 probably in that range, whatever you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. The next thing, of course, is the letter. So in the letter, you want to include who you are, kind of your family composition. And you don't have to go into too many details, because if you say too much, sometimes that could put you at a disadvantage.
Don't write like a 4-page essay.
No, just say why you like your house. I would list the reasons why you love the house, and maybe include a few pictures of your happy, smiling family, right? Yeah, and tell them a little story, but like again, you don't want to give too much out. The next thing I would do is ask my buyer to have, ahead of time, a pre-approval letter from the bank. Because if you have to have a financing condition, if you have that letter stating you're pre-approved, then that almost kind of wipes out that financing condition in the seller's mind, right? You're going to want to look at conditions, of course. I'm not going to say waive conditions. I never advise that, but you're going to want to keep those timelines as tight as you can. So you don't want to ask for 3 weeks if you're competing, if you don't need them. If you can get away with the week, I would get the client to call their mortgage broker and find out how much time they need. Yep. And get your inspection kind of tentatively booked, so you know that an inspector's available, and get it all wrapped up as quick as you can. Yeah. The other thing would be inclusions. So you want to look at what the seller's saying they want to include, and don't ask for anything else. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
don't be greedy with inclusions. Don't be greedy with your condition dates. Don't be greedy.
Don't be greedy.
Don't be greedy, period. Like, if you want a house and you're competing, like, I always explain it like there's 2 different definitions of what the top of worth is. Like, we will look at, we're competing, Joanne will say, listen, I think this house is worth this at the very most, right? Yeah. let's say this house is 400. I think it's worth 450. Anything over that is too much money.
Yeah.
So that's to her. But maybe like this house is the house of my dreams, and I'm like, no, I will kill someone for this house if I have to. I'm gonna pay 500. And as long as that buyer knows, okay, well that's too much money.
Yeah.
And you better plan to stay there for 10 years because you're probably not gonna get that out if you sell sooner than that. Then sure, right?
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
ahead. Right?
Absolutely.
It's really interesting.
But we provide. So let's talk about how we've come up with that value.
Yeah.
Because I was working on one of those before we started recording. So we go look at the house.
Yep.
When you go through the house, of course, you're going to look for any foreseeable issues that might come up in inspection. And then you're going to look at recent sales and what's for sale now. But mostly when you're doing it to write an offer, it'd be recent sales. And in this case, I'm looking at, I don't want to say too much actually. But you're looking in the same neighborhood or same area, and same style, same square footage, same age, and look at what's sold in that time frame. And what I like to do is do a side by side comparison for my buyer, so we can go across line by line and say, okay, how does this differ?
Yeah.
Age, size, and then look at the photos, add the other comps, and say, okay, did this one have better finishes? Did it have a heat pump? Whatever, and then that's how I suggest my sale price.
Yeah.
And I do that for every listing that we write an offer on because, it helps them build their market knowledge.
Well, it also builds confidence in you, right? Like when you do that with every single listing, it's like, holy crap, she doesn't just know her stuff, but she's providing data with every single thing, right? And like data's great. Data's, we were talking about this today at our staff meeting.
Yeah.
Solds are great, right? This house sold for this, it sold for this. But you have anomalies. You have properties that will sell for way too much. And here's the thing. The only two people probably in that transaction, or maybe people around who are paying attention to it, but if this is like from 3 months ago and you don't, if you didn't see it, you didn't show it, and you didn't know it was too much money, you're just going to throw it as a comp.
Yeah.
Right? So to be able to constantly do that with every offer, you're really paying attention to the market. You're really like, this is
well, and it comes back to having that market knowledge about your local area, right? And knowing all the things because, it's not all streets of Truro created equally, and there's lines you can divide at different places. And I don't want to get into what ones are, but like the top end of the street could be really great, and the bottom end of the street maybe doesn't bring as much money for different reasons, right?
Exactly. Well, and that's really important too. Is I think the biggest thing with like any evaluation ever looking at comparables is location, right?
Yeah.
Like you never, ever would take something on the 311 highway and compare it to Valley. Or you would never ever downtown Truro to Upper Onslow, right? Like location is key because at the end of the day, the neighborhood is what's important and what sells in that, right?
Yeah.
Now, style of house I think is the biggest second thing. So like you have a bungalow, comp to bungalows.
Yeah.
And if you don't have bungalows, okay, what's the next best thing? Well, story and a half or side split or whatever, right?
Yeah, like a side split's very much similar to a two-story.
Yeah, right? So, but location is huge. Like, location is so big.
And locational obsolescence too, right? Like if you have a junkyard in the backyard, that's going to hurt your price. Like, and you could have a house down the street on the other side or on this side that doesn't have the junkyard. And by junkyard, I mean someone's yard that's like a junkyard. And your price difference is going to be vast.
Oh, 100%, right? And the worst part about that is that that's something you can't control. So that's something like if there's, hey, listen, you need to fix this window to bring your price up. You can do that. But that is something you have zero power in, right?
And the only thing price can fix anything.
But here's the thing, but you can get more money if your neighbors clean that act up, right?
Yeah.
Here, speaking of obsolescence is like stuff around, like noise around you. We're getting a big rail yard in Oslo.
Right.
What was it called? Scotia Port. I think probably, there's no timeline, but probably within the next, 5 years, it's at least going to be within construction, near completion. I think that's going to hit the value of homes up there.
Do you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, like, just look at the amount of homes around the Halifax rail yard right now, and the port around there. I mean, there's no houses down there at all. There are commercial areas, Kevin, but I think it's gonna affect pricing definitely.
Or maybe the port people want to buy some of the properties that border it.
Maybe, and I think that'll really be a niche spot we're looking for. But your average person, and I would say, I mean, like the road I live in is like all seniors, and the road next to me is like all seniors. So maybe it's just a bit
Is it gonna back up in behind you?
No. It's I don't think so.
Okay.
But what I'm getting at is that there's a lot of people who live there for like serenity. And if you're gonna have a big rail yard, because it's quiet, right? If you're gonna have a big rail yard, you're gonna be able to hear from everywhere. I don't know. It'll be really interesting, but I do definitely think you're gonna see people. I kind of want to move before it goes in because I live in Upper Onslow. Because I do think it's gonna hit the value a little.
Yeah.
I do I don't know. Like I wasn't around when the junkyard went down Brunswick Street, but I'm certain that probably affected the value of places around that. Right?
Yeah.
Two like potato and carrot, not really similar things.
With the junkyard,
but
it's a little less palatable than.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing: people who it's going to employ a ton of people.
Oh yes.
So maybe people want to live close to work. I don't know. Probably not.
I don't know. The highway's right there, right? So it's not like it'll be a long commute.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting, and we won't know. But I do think it's gonna hurt us a little bit. I don't know. So moving on from the rail yard, so we just talked about like a lot of things that's good when you're competing with an offer, tips to make your offer look more appealing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about things that could hurt your offer, right? So it sounds pretty simple, like obviously the opposite. So low deposit, long conditions, asking for everything in the house, including the cat. But it goes it goes a little further than that, right? So what are some things that can hurt your offer? Well, first of all, asking for not inclusions, but asking for a ton of conditions can hurt your offer too. Now, that's not saying, obviously you want conditions to protect yourself. Like you never ever should waive a financing condition if you have financing. Same with if you want an inspection, you have the property inspection condition in there. But let's say you wanted an electrician to come in.
Yeah.
Right? And do whatever. Just because. And we write that in as an extra condition. And then let's say you want the
seller to repair things.
Or a seller to repair things. You're asking for extra things that just makes the offer, well, first of all, it makes the offer look less desirable.
The more it's in the offer.
Exactly,
like
right?
The volume of it.
And the other thing too is the more conditions you have, those are more things you could walk away on, right? And that's how it should be prescribed to, or not prescribed. That's how it should be described to a seller. Is that, listen, they want a electrical panel test, and they want you to fix all the holes in the wall after you take the TV mounts out, and they want, like, it's more things for the sellers to do and the buyers to walk away on. So those are things that can hurt your offer too.
But here's the secret that sellers don't know is, or maybe they do know, it doesn't matter how many conditions you put in. If you want to walk away from the house and it's before your condition date, all you have to do is refuse to sign the 408.
Oh yeah, exactly. The
so like you need, if you want to do an inspection, you need to put that in so you have the right to do the inspection. But like all this stuff, electrical, that could all fall under property inspections, right? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Now it could get dicey because, like, let's say you can't get the electrician the same day as the property inspector, then you ask for a second visit, and well, that wasn't in the offer. Like it could get gray. But you're 100% right.
It says property inspection, so it doesn't say building inspection. It could be a radon test, it could be a sewer line test, it could be an electrical. And here's the thing: you don't even have to have a certified building. They're not certified. You don't even have to have a building inspector to do your inspection. It could be tradespeople. So you might want to bring in a furnace guy, a plumber, an electrician, and all that would fall under property inspections.
It could be your dad.
Please don't be the dad. The dads are not, unless your dad is in one of those trades. Normally, it's better to bring in a full inspector.
A dad killed my deal 2 weeks ago.
Oh, so. I had a dad once try to kill my deal because he told the people that it shouldn't have paneling, and the house was like $100,000. So, you're lucky to have something standing at $100,000, right? Anyways,
one thing I wanted to talk about, I just remembered. So we talked about 2 episodes ago with our network of referrals. I have a fantastic individual in Yukon who sent me some lovely clients I'm working with right now. And him and I were talking the other night, and we were just chatting about competing and whatnot. And he said, now, we've mentioned this before, real estate's governed provincially, right? So everything's done kind of, it's the same idea, but things are done different. And more importantly, associations are really structured differently, right? So he was telling me, well, where he works, he can do the inspection before the offer. He just books a 3-hour showing and brings an inspector in. He waives financing before an offer because he just gets it approved beforehand because he gets the taxes and everything, and that means no insurance, so he goes in unconditional. And I was like, if I did any of that, I would be reported to my association so fast.
But how do you get away with a 3-hour showing.
And he was like, oh, I just said they really like the property and they want to look at it. And like the guy's a great guy, I love him. And if that works for their market, great. But like I was like, man, here I would have my head on a stake.
Well, and
there's
do you
no way.
Do you want to pay for an inspection if you don't have an accepted offer?
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like if you're competing, you have no chance of doing that at all, right? And that kind of goes to the point. Like if you're competing, you're doing that to get away from competing. But if you're competing, do you have time to get that done? Maybe if they're holding offers.
Because sometimes when you're competing, you have a 15-minute window to go in and out and look at the house, right? It's not so bad now, but a half hour usually is the most you can get.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, maybe an hour. But if it's a really hot property, it's 15 minutes. You get to
way too much. But he's an awesome seasoned agent, and he's
well, it might be different there, right? Like everywhere, it's regulated provincially.
Exactly, and he's a rock star in his market. So what he does works, and it's great. But I just want to bring that up. Like it's so funny because like you would never get away with that here.
No,
never in a million years. No. I would look at that showing from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and be like,
"What are you doing?
Are you sure this was meant 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m.?"
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up, which is funny.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting how things are different. Speaking of which, we should talk a little bit about, and maybe I'm digressing too fast here. We got some stats, Remax Canada, because this was it a Remax agent?
What?
Was it a Remax?
Yes, yeah.
So that's one of the beautiful things, and if you go back and look at our Word of the Day episode, Remax, one of the beautiful things about working for Remax is that referral network that we have.
It's huge.
And they just came out with some 2023 stats, and these are to the end of April, as compared to the competitors. And in Canada, we did 317,965 transactions.
Which is huge.
Since the start of the
year
year.
To date, right? So not even 2 quarters.
And our closest competitor, 163,193. So Remax agents are doing more than double?
Almost double.
Almost double.
So, and it's really interesting because like, you can look at that from okay, we're doing almost double, we'll say transaction sides, remember? So one deal could be 2 transaction sides. But it's more important for market share.
Yeah.
Right? Like seeing that, once again, that could be, you could have way more buying sides and selling sides than that, but market share is really big, right? Because when you're driving around, and we were talking about that in our meeting today too.
All the Remax signs everywhere.
Yeah, like Remax signs are whether it's Remax Fairlane here, or Remax Nova, or Remax Banner,
Park Place, or
When you're not really, I don't want to say accustomed to the real estate world, but if you don't really know the industry, let's say, and all you see is Remax everywhere, and Remax, when you need to do something, you're just going to Google Remax, and then Google hopefully will do its thing and bring you here to us, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's just really interesting you say that, because we have a Google profile. So this is just our business profile, and in the month of April, we showed up, we had 4,356 profile views just on this isn't on our website. This is just on the Google business listing, right? Exactly. And we had 85 people ask for directions to our office. That's a lot. Yeah. In a virtual world.
For 30, so that's almost 3 a day.
And that's just from
a month.
That's just from a month, but not everybody that came to our office. That's just from what people asked for directions on our Google profile. Like there's been all kinds of other people come in, and we had 43 calls just from the Google profile.
Yeah, exactly.
To the office. So, I mean, that's a lot. And I think that's really interesting. And I think it makes us a really powerful brand. And what does that mean to you as a consumer? Why would you care about that? Well, you would care about that is because when you list your property with us, we're going to get it in front of more people. Yeah. More potential buyers, more leads, which is what we need. The other interesting thing is that we're the only company, I'm just looking at a big list of people here, that is in 110 countries. The next leading one is 85. So we're truly global, which is great, because we do have a global website. I think we talked about this last time, where you can go on and search in Italy and get it in your language and your currency. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
It's super user friendly. It's really interesting because like just looking at these stats, it's like we're number 1. The second brokerage, it's just a little over half of us. Third brokerage is under half of them. Fourth brokerage is half of them. Fifth brokerage is close to that. So like it landslides very fast, right?
We're not allowed to say the other brokerages' names, I don't think.
No. Oh, well, I didn't want to give them recognition anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, it's real. And like I'm certain you can probably figure it out, right? When we say 5 brokerages, you probably can think of them, at least 3 of them. But point is that to be able to do this many transaction sides, that just proves working with a RE/MAX agent. It's not that maybe necessarily we get the job done better, but it's that we get the job done more.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Now we don't know how many, like we have 144,000 agents worldwide, which is great, right? And keep in mind those transactions are only Canadian, so that's not 144,000 agents worth of transactions. That's just Canadian. But in Canada, I think it was like 20,000 or something we have. I don't know, but it was a sizable amount. But to have that many agents, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and
right?
I just want to pull. So the transactions are for the year 2022, but the numbers and counts are from January to April. So all the sales, let's say transaction sides, there was 317,956 sales that RE/MAX did, and our next closest competitor was at 163,193.
So in the year 2022, so that was incorrect there. So that's not up to date. That's for the entire year of last year. It's still huge. Think about it. That's almost 1,000 sides a day.
Absolutely.
Right? Once again, there's just no other brand like that.
Yeah. So and they did give us a snapshot of 2022 in Nova Scotia, and we're experienced. So the average RE/MAX agent in Nova Scotia has an experience of 10.3 years. That's a lot. 21.3 sides per agent per year. And we have a total of 16 offices, 318 agents, and there's 58. So for the year 2022, we did 5,892 transactions. So that's huge.
That is huge. And you got to think too. There's a lot of people who I think are just sitting and not selling their house right now. So we may be able to get over 6,000 this year, right?
Yeah.
I think so. I think as we move
I
on,
think sales are going to be up because more listings are coming to market.
Well, that's what I mean. Like just what I said about home sales earlier. It's like, look at home sales. People are finally able to do them.
Yeah.
Right. So if we can get that over 6,000 this year, that'd be wicked. That
would be very wicked. The other kind of, do we have anything else on competing offers? Competition? Oh, we should talk about what not to do. So one other thing that I was stating, sorry, I totally went in a circle. So what not to do? We talked about chattels.
Yeah.
What don't ask for the firstborn. Don't ask for the 4-wheeler or the lawn tractor in the garage if you're competing.
It's never gonna. It doesn't matter how much money you're offering them. It's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. So most guys, unless it's included in the listing already, right?
Yeah, right. And then now, once again, maybe if you're offering $100,000 over asking, that's different. But just keep it simple, straightforward, right? Appliances.
I sold a house recently where they took everything in the house.
Everything?
Furniture. All the furniture.
Light fixtures?
No. The buyers asked for everything. They want all the furniture.
Oh.
Even their mattresses.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, my first offer, as you know, because I was told, they said, listen, we want the house furnished. So Dylan and his newbie real estate, his first offer I ever wrote, and I was like, okay, they want everything. And in real estate school, it's like, be thorough, right? So it's like, you're damn right I'm going to be thorough. So I asked for the bed sheets and the comforters and the pillows, the hand towels. I think I had soap in there, everything. And it was on one of her listings. And it was everything. You don't have to do that if you want the furnishings included.
No. And I said to him afterwards, okay, because his offer didn't get accepted, unfortunately. And I said, let's go through this and talk about what we could have done differently hereafter, because I couldn't advise him ahead of time, right? And let's not ask for the bed sheets if you're competing.
It's just kind of weird too, because it's funny. My clients were like, once again, hindsight, they were like, we don't need the bed sheets. Like even they were like, that's weird. And I was like, no. Need them included. You want everything? We need to have it written down. So they're like, okay.
And then my sister looked at it, she's like, what? Why do they want my sheets? I guess they can have them, sure. But anyways, digress.
You live and learn, right? So anyway, that was baby Dylan and his baby real estate years.
But you've grown very much.
So I think for competing offers, one thing I want to say is you need to really have two kind of vital mindsets.
Yep.
Even in this industry, you need to be positive, you need to be optimistic,
yep.
right?
What about bully? Sorry.
Yeah. We could have a bully too. You're probably not going to get your first competing offer accepted.
No. Because
usually it takes a few to lose to realize, okay, $5,000 over asking isn't going to cut it, right? Yeah. So now that's not saying that's not the case 100% of the time, but you may not get your first competing offer accepted, right? And it's not a fun experience, but like I said, it kind of kicks in the butt. And you're like, okay, if we really want to have a chance at this, we're gonna have to bring it up a notch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's a bully offer?
So bully offer. So what happens is sometimes when you list a property, you might set some rules of how you want the offers to be handled. So you might say, I want all offers left open for 72 hours. You also might say, we're looking at all offers we need all offers in by Wednesday at 5, and we're going to decide on Thursday at 6. However the seller is comfortable. So as a buyer's agent, you can do one of two things. You can follow those rules and submit your offer as you're told. Or if you go in with what's called a preemptive offer is probably the right term, but preemptive or bully.
Bully offer is the more, I guess,
what people, and you can go in and say, okay, here's my offer, and I want an answer in, 6 hours, 3 hours, 12 hours. We've seen ones with 4 hours, and then the seller can do one of two things. They can say, no, you need to resubmit, and then you have the right to walk away and pull your offer, or resubmit it, or the seller can take it.
Now, what's the point of a bully offer? Like, when are bully offers made?
So bully offers are made because they want to get the jump on everybody else and secure the property.
Right.
And not go into competition. So typically, if you have a bully offer, most times it's going to be a good amount of money over asking. It's going to be really favorable conditions. Sometimes you see it without conditions. Again, I don't advise that, but generally it's an offer that's almost too good to turn up. And you're going to make the seller worry that they're not going to get anything as good as what they have, and that's exactly what you want to do, right? And with that, you're going to want to do the same things: big deposit letter, all this stuff. Yep. But you're just going to give them a short time frame.
And it's kind of like take it or leave it, right? Like if you don't, and Joanne's right. Like nothing. Once that timeline's up, nothing obliges that buyer to come back to the table and follow those timelines, right?
Well, and the buyer can pull it even if I give you an offer, and you haven't decided or signed on it. If my buyer decides they want to withdraw it, we can do that at any point.
100. And that's one thing. So many people I've been I think at least 6 people this year who were in the market either with a different realtor or they already were purchasing or whatever. They were like, "Whoa, you can withdraw an offer after you." It's like, yeah, you can, because I'm working with this one couple. They're fantastic, and they have probably made 10 offers on properties beside me. And now that I'm working with them, it's okay. The first offer made, we can do this, and if we find out we're competing, we can withdraw our offer. And so something you can do if you know you're competing, you can have 2 offers written. You have your first offer at asking or whatever. Then in your pocket, you have your second offer, which is your highest, ready to sign. So it's like on a flip of a switch. Yeah. And they were like, what do you mean we can withdraw our offer and resubmit? That's an option. I was like, yeah, that's an option. So unless your offer gets accepted or countered, you're at full liberty. It's your offer. The buyer owns the offer. Yeah, right?
They absolutely do.
So you can withdraw it. You can resubmit it. You can withdraw it and say, no, you know what? I got cold feet. Yeah. I don't think so. But
kick rocks.
Yeah. So I'm only bringing that up because I have encountered that a lot over the last little bit, and maybe that's not common knowledge.
I think buyers are a little bit of competition fatigue, and one thing we're seeing happen is, so normally what would happen is offer number 1 writes, offer number 2 comes in, and you would let them know, hey, you're competing.
Yep.
Sorry. The agent would call and say, we're writing an offer. Okay, well, I just need you to know there's an offer on the table and you'll be competing. Once offer number 2 comes in, you go back to offer number 1 and say, essentially they can do one of 4 things really. They can leave their offer the same. They can, like you said, resubmit it at a different terms, price. Or number 3, they can withdraw it. So three things. They can withdraw it. And I've seen that happen for a couple times in the last little bit.
Yeah, but they don't want to compete, right?
They don't want to compete. So the seller runs the risk of that. But 9 times out of 10, we're seeing that they increase their offer. It's usually the hope, right?
Yeah. And just because you're competing and you're like, I find typically, unless it's a bully offer, the first offer hands usually around asking.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't.
Not always so.
No, but you got to think about it. It's like, if your offer isn't a bully offer, if you write an offer that's open for 72 hours and you're the first offer on the table for $30,000 over asking, you just made your buyer hand over $30,000 for no reason.
Yeah, you shouldn't go anymore. You shouldn't compete against yourself.
No, what's the point? But all the time I hear, oh yeah, we weren't competing and we offered $40,000 over asking. I was like, why?
Yeah.
And it's like so you were advised to do this? Yeah. It's like the first offer, go in at asking. And if you're competing, then
unless you're trying to do bully, yeah.
Well, unless you're bullying, but if they want 48 hours and you're giving them 48 hours, there's no reason to go over asking. Just give them a strong offer at asking price. Let it sit. If you compete, pull it off and resubmit.
Yeah,
right?
that's really good. That's really good advice, Dylan. The other thing that we should talk about is so we've I think we've talked mostly about offers, listings.
Yeah.
How to pick a listing agent, I think, was the other thing that we want to talk about, because sometimes people are calling in 2 or 3 listing agents, and everybody's got a different way they speak. You have different connections with people, but what should we be looking for in a listing agent if you're interviewing listing agents?
I think the biggest thing is if you want a realtor. I mean, first of all, back to connections. Connections is big, right? So you want a presence. So you want someone. I mean, like everything's digital nowadays, right?
Yeah.
You want someone with obviously, like I want to say heavy, I'm not talking about thousands, but you want someone with a heavy social media presence. Someone, and even if they don't have a lot of followers, you want someone who's consistently using it. So whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, that's really important. I think it's actually almost crucial to have an agent who does that, because it's almost
agent, and then not just the agent, but the brokerage as well.
Oh, 100%. Because you got to think, like, you have such a big category of people who are remotely looking at homes, even in Nova Scotia, but let's say outside of Nova Scotia, and they need to see that promotion, right? And whether it's on, like, I'm in like 30 Facebook groups, like Ontario to Nova Scotia, Manitoba to Nova Scotia, Alberta to Nova Scotia, British Columbia, like all these different areas to Nova Scotia, and then you just share your listings in there, and then people see it. So that's really
I call
big.
that our grassroots marketing.
Yeah.
Like, because you used to go and put things up on a bulletin board. Like, you'd put a poster up. So there is no bulletin. Well, there are bulletin boards, but not for us to put our listings on.
No.
So, I mean, actually, I have done that too. But anyways, I digress. You go on Facebook and you go on these buy and sell groups for real estate that have buyers in them and people that want to move here. You post them there, and it's as pretty much close to a bulletin board as you can get in person, right? And I've got all kinds of inquiries from listings, and actually I've sold properties.
Oh my goodness,
because of it. And it's free to do, but it costs you time, right? So it's not really free.
Well, my first clients were from one of those groups.
Yeah. So there you
right?
go.
So it's really crucial. So social media presence is huge. Next huge thing to look at is you want a realtor who's confident, right? Like a lot of this industry, and the reality is, doesn't matter. There's this term, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Right? So that when you're a newer realtor, obviously when you're a consumer, whether you're a buyer or a seller, you want to work with an agent who knows their stuff. Whether they know it or they're acting like they know it, it needs to be portrayed.
Well, if they have someone to back them up that has the support. Right. It's a confidence, and you want something that's good about a newer agent is they have time for you.
Well, time, and then like
the enthusiasm.
Well, enthusiasm, and then it's also like if they're newer, they just got out of whatever school. Training or school, so they know the industry like the back of their hand. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that's kind of sidetracking from what I was saying, and it's obviously experience is key, but then the other side too, it's like experience is key, sure, but like experience is one thing you can only gain by being in the market, and obviously for how many years, right? And obviously as time moves on, agents who come into real estate, they need business. So I think experience is important, but I don't think it's that important to a lot of people.
Especially buyers that want to have odd schedules.
Of course, right?
Yeah, and
I mean, like, I think what more people are looking for are committed people. And then once again, when you're a newer agent, you're like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and they get it done. Yeah. Right? So confidence is another big thing.
Communication would be the next.
Yeah, communication.
And I was just saying to Dylan, like, if my clients text me, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. I feel like I need to get back to them right away.
It's like an obligation, right?
I feel like I'm indebted to them. Like, they're hiring me to do a big thing, so I want to be available. If they're stressing out about something, I want to be available to talk to them and talk them through it, or walk them through it, or whatever we need to do to make it as seamless as possible. And I think we owe it that to our clients. Like, if I don't respond to your text in a half hour, that's very, very weird. That or phone call. And that's the other thing, is you need to talk to the agent about how you want to be communicated with, because some people want phone calls. Some people are like, don't call me, just text me, right? Some people want email. So it's about having that conversation with your agent, or they should be having that conversation with you. Oh, do you text? What do you prefer? How do you want us to book showings? And also not just showings, but like following up on everything, like feedback. is sometimes hard to get from agents, so you have to chase them down and get that and report back, and just letting them know kind of step by step what's happening, even if there's nothing happening, right?
Yes. Oh, 100%.
So you're never
right.
wondering about what's going on.
Yeah. And it's a preference, right? Like
Yeah.
some people prefer to be on the phone. Some people, I love talking. Like if I had it my way, I would talk. Maybe like if it wasn't casually, but for everything business wise, I would talk if I could. But paper trails are super important in this business. So obviously texting and email is really important.
Yeah.
Email more specifically. And on top of that, the last thing I want to say is it's
The last thing? Are you sure it's going to be last?
no. In regards to looking at picking a listing agent, you want to have someone who's got their stuff together, right?
Yeah.
You want someone who comes in, they're, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, this is the first step, this is second. Like, you want someone who's, remember.
Education, right?
Yeah.
You're going to educate the client as well.
The biggest thing that I think my favorite part about the whole process, whether it's buying or selling, I always joke by the end of the transaction, I'm like, I hope you could buy your house without me now, because I want them to be at that level where they understand everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything. So like typically a buyer brokerage agreement, not so much, but a listing agreement, I'm usually with the person for at least an hour and a half going through everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't want to give away my tips and secrets, but I do things where by the time they're ready to sign, they're good. We don't need that. They're good to go because they already know everything.
You've already
right?
explained everything.
Yeah. So it's really important to when you're looking, if you are hiring multiple realtors, which I'm not saying you shouldn't, especially if you haven't been in the industry for a while, right? I also think there's a lot of value in talking to friends or family about referrals, and not saying you shouldn't have multiple agents in, but if you have like a family member say, listen, I work with this person and they're stellar, just bring them in. And if you like them, great. And if not, then get someone else in.
Yeah.
But if you have like 4 people in back to back to back to back, you're going to get a ton of data thrown at you. Probably very similar data, but you're going to get a ton of data thrown at you.
Yeah.
4 different personality types, potentially more, because you could have multiple, like a group of agents come, right? If they're a team. So 4 different personality types, 4 different evaluations, 4 different listings. Like, it's going to be a lot.
It's going to be a lot of time, because I know
Yeah.
like sometimes we do a multiple step process. So and we like to spend a lot of time with people when we're doing evaluations. So
Yeah.
I think if you connect with someone, that's the biggest thing. But one thing you can do is ask for references. So like, I know we have clients give us testimonials all the time. And the other thing you can do is go to the Nova Scotia Real Estate Commission's website and research your agent, because we're all on there. And if we've had any issues, like
If we've been fined.
if we've been fined or complaints, it's going to show up on that website. So if you're going to hire someone, it would make sense to do that, right? And I know we get a little newsletter that tells us who everyone
Yeah.
is. So, but that's publicly available. And if you were going to hire someone to look after your kids, you had a database, you'd probably do that. So this is your biggest transaction. You're going to want to make sure you do all the research you can.
I think we've talked about that before, but I'll just mention it again. Our commission's website is nsrec.ns.ca. And like Joanne just said, you can go back as long as you want to think. And there is a spot for disciplinary action.
Yeah, and you can search it.
Like, you can go literally, I'm not going to name names or anything, but you can go back to like 2020 and see like, wow, this one agent did this. Yeah. Holy moly. And I think we
did talk about that
on one the first or second episode.
I think it's good to bring back up. And what was I going to say about agents? I can't remember now. That'll have to come back to me.
I think what I was trying to get at is that I'm not saying don't get multiple opinions, but you got to keep in mind when you have 4 or 2 or 3 or however many, you're gonna have just a ton of information at once, right? And then on how it usually works is typically the highest price and the lowest commission, they usually come at the top, right? And even though, like, let's say 4 realtors, okay, 400, 410, 405, and 450. Well, it's okay. Hold on now. These 3, sure. Wow, where did they get 450 from? But the problem is sometimes rather than rationalize thinking, oh, well, I don't know why they're off, you think, oh my God, money.
Yeah.
Holy crap. They think I can sell my house for $450,000. Yeah, I'm going with you yesterday. Let's go. And then it sits in the market for
which is going to cost
3
you
months.
money. And I find
usually
we can make up our own fees. We can make you the money that you need, So, because it's a lot of work to list a house.
And that's another thing too. It's like when the common perception of a realtor is they just sit back, they put a sold sign on the lawn and sit back and collect their commission. That's not it at all, right? I was listening to something the other day. I don't know if it was for, it definitely wasn't Nova Scotia, but it was for somewhere in Canada, and they did a market share data report of like 3,000 agents in a province, and the average agent spent like 35 hours on a transaction.
Yeah.
So like you got to think about it. So for one trend, and that's assuming nothing goes wrong, right? Where you have some times where you're like up into your phone until 11 o'clock at night, going back and forth, negotiating over a broken toaster, or
yeah,
right, like right. So
absolutely.
like so it's obviously money's important, and that's why you're selling your house. You want to get the biggest bang for your buck, but really just let that sit with you. As if you have 3 people all in the same, and then you have one person in outer space, they're there for a reason, and you're probably not going to get that money.
And you're probably going to lose money in the end, right?
Yeah. Well, and then too, it's like the longer you sit in the market, the more you stigmatize yourself, right? There was a property, you know what it is, I'm not going to say it, because we've talked about it before. It was listed months last year. Months and months and months and months and months. And there were things with it, and they pulled it off the market. It was on the market for a week, and it sold.
So it's not sold yet. It's going to
be pending. Sorry, it's pending. But it was never pending before.
No.
So like
that tells me the market's
right. So and they came back with a higher price, but I'm bringing that up because then their house was just obviously listed too high, right? And that it sat in the market for like 4 months or 5 months.
Yeah.
So that is really what that can do. Really, it can just kill your sale.
Yeah. So also in picking a listing agent, you should look at their listings that they currently have and look at their write-ups, look at their photos, and that will give you a feeling for how they're going to market your property. Yeah.
If someone has upside down listing photos.
Yeah, you don't want to hire them. That's just basic common sense. You shouldn't have upside down or sideways photos.
And I'm not knocking it, but iPhones are great, don't get me wrong, but if you're listing a $500,000 house and you're snapping iPhone photos,
you should have professional photos. That's easy for me to say because I'm a professional photographer, but it doesn't take much for even an agent to learn how to take their own photos, or you can hire it out, right?
And like at the end of the day, it's like if you're on the go and you need a photographer, like there are people like I have a guy, he's $350 and he does photography, drone photos, Matterport 3D, tons of social media. Like he's great. His name is Rick Day. Shout out to him. He's fantastic. And okay, you got to think it's a $500,000 house. It's cost me $350. That's a write-off.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer. And then it's less stress on you to not grab photos, and it's less to do this and that. So it's
all about marketing and also playing to your strengths. Oh, yes. And hiring out what you can delegate, right?
Yes.
Because that's the best thing we're doing is communicating with people and helping transactions move along.
100%. So I guess to kind of like wrap everything up with that, you want to get the most amount of money for your house in the short possible time. Like those are 2 goals, right? You want to get the most amount of dollar with little time on the market. Right? Now, that doesn't mean you can get what that 4th presentation said at $450 when all these said $400 to $410, but maybe you can get $420 or $425, right? Yeah. And being on the market for 3 days is really like time on days on market is crucial. We talked about this before, right? The second you start to hit over that 2-week mark, you start to get stigmatized. And people are going to start looking at your house and, well, what's wrong with that house? Why hasn't it sold? There's no reason. It's just overpriced, right? Yeah. But then you wouldn't even get that person.
Well, there's 2 things that sell a house: price and promotion marketing.
100%.
So
100%.
The other thing, I guess, before we wrap up, sorry to come back.
Yeah.
But I think what people should be looking at too is what is the marketing plan? How are you going to market my house?
Yeah.
What social media channels are you on? What websites am I going to be on?
Do you have a podcast?
Yeah. Do you have a TikTok channel? Are you going to do video? Because video is key right now, right? Like video is huge. So are you going to do open houses? Are you going to, what else? We have a window display downstairs. There's all kinds of different things. You know, what untraditional ways are you going to market my house? How are you going to reach audiences?
You're going to do flyer routes. So you're going to do agent open houses.
There's all kinds of interesting things, and we've done some really out of the box things. And I know in the past we had a subdivision listed, and we did a open house on a land development and invited builders to come, right?
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different little ideas you can do. So
right, exactly. You got to get creative in this industry.
So one thing you can do right now, if you list one little perk of listing with us, we're not saying this is why you should list with us, but it's one little perk, is RE/MAX has a new contest. So between January the 1st July the 7th, I think it is, or July the 9th, if you sign a listing contract with Remax, you can enter their Sail Away program.
Yes.
Sail Away program. So they're giving away up to $40,000. So I think there's, let me just bring this up here. They're giving away 6 Airbnb gift cards that are worth $5,000 each, and 10 Visa gift cards that are worth $1,000 each.
Which is huge. And all you got to do, and I know Joanne said, not that you should. I think you should list with us.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not even close your house. It's just execute a listing agreement. So it's just getting your house in the market.
Yeah. So I know I'm going to get in touch with all my past clients. And
100%.
Right.
And it's funny because like this is from January up until July, right?
July the 9th, yeah.
So it's like people who sold their house in January never would have known this was a thing. But now I'm going to go back to them and be like, hey, by the way, there's just this random contest happening that we usually get like a couple a year because we had one last year for the MBA or whatever. Right?
Well, we just finished one. They gave away a $1,500 Our card, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we talked about that.
And this is something Remax is coming out with after every. I think there's going to be 5 or 6 contests this year, and they're all going to be different. But this one's geared for sellers, so.
So it's awesome because now I'm going to go back to them and say, hey, listen, you automatically are entered into this contest, and they're like, great, and they may tell anyone who they're interested. Oh, by the way,
they just have to fill the form still though.
Yeah, right. But like, and then it's just that one extra thing of working with Dylan and Joanne. Mm-hmm. You know, other than everything else we chose to work with them, now we're entered into this contest that is just that Remax is promoting, and they do all the time, right? So just another perk to work with a Remax agent.
Absolutely, right? and they gave away too, like they're doing all kinds of stuff. They did a scholarship contest, and they gave away $41,000 scholarships, which I think is great. So instead of giving someone one big, they were able to touch 40 students, which I thought was really great. And there was 2 people from Nova Scotia that won, and this is all across Canada again, and they each. Got $1,000, so that's
awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Speaking of that, while Joanne's pulling the next thing up, I don't know if you know that, but if you are if you're a licensee, if you're a realtor, our association, they have a bursary committee, and every year they give a scholarship away, don't they?
They do give a scholarship away every year.
So if you are a realtor or if you are related to a realtor, there's a little more kind of contingent things with it, but you could apply for that scholarship.
Yeah.
So that's just another little cool fun tip.
Yeah, absolutely. So we should probably move on to, what's next? Our listings of the week?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I just listed a lot over on Oxford. So it's off of Wexford Drive in Valley, and it's a really great subdivision. I sold a couple new builds over there this year as well. It's about 8,600 square feet, listed at $49,900 and no HST. And that whole subdivision is just like there's new builds coming up all around. So if you want to build a house, the builder actually has the person who's selling it actually has a lot next door that's a very similar size, and they built a house on it. So like he kind of has already has a footprint. So we could talk about that if you wanted to know what you could fit on there. And the beautiful thing about that street is everything's underground. All the power cables, all that sort of stuff's underground. And it's got curbs already in. It's got really nice street lights. Like it's kind of an upscale area in Valley.
I would say it's one of the nicer communities in Valley.
Yeah, it's absolutely lovely. Thank you, Dylan. And so we have that ready, and it's all level. Be perfect for a slab. So if you are thinking about building a slab, contact me. And if you need a builder, I can probably help you with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
For my listing of the week, I'll talk about a listing that I've had in the market for a while, but we're starting to get a little more interest on it, and that's at 269 Onslow Road in Upper Onslow. This home is a duplex. I think I've talked about it before. It's a lovely duplex. It was a single family home, and it had the upper unit put onto it. And they just finished the siding outside. They're starting to drywall the second unit. They're changing somewhat the layout of the bottom unit. So they've done a lot of work outside, starting to be.
It looks really great on the outside. Yeah,
it's coming together, and it's still listed at $215, right? So, and the way the units are going to be is that you could easily, the top unit probably finished could rent for $1,200-1,300 a month, maybe more, right? So you could live in the bottom one, and at that purchase price, you could easily cover your mortgage with the rest of it, right? It wouldn't even be a competition. So that's my listing of the week, I would say. And let's hopefully have some interest in it and see what happens. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it'd be interesting. We can talk about that next week. Our business of the week this week is Little Mo's Academy out in Valley. I take my dog Arlo there every day.
Yeah.
And Arlo is a red heeler, and if you know anything about red heelers, they need a lot of exercise. So this boy is exercised for 8 hours a day, and what's beautiful about them is he's a kind of a reactive dog. He's not good with people he doesn't know. Once you're part of his pack, it's fine.
Yep.
But these guys have been able to take him from a dog when he first went there. He'd have his tail between his legs, and he's just really nervous. And now he trots right in there like he owns the place, and everybody knows him. Yeah, and he's really good. And they don't just get them to play with other dogs, but they actually work with them, and they post videos, which is great, of him like doing all his little tricks and stuff. So he's doing really well there, and Yan and her staff are amazing. So because I know they take a lot of dogs on. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, they're really great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's our shout out of the week.
There's a lot of stuff commercial happening. I can't really talk much, but there might be an opportunity coming in downtown Truro as well, where it's not like Little Mo's, but it's animal related, and I can't really talk about it, but I'm kind of working on something right now. So
that's exciting.
We'll have to see. Hopefully it can come together. The downtown Truro partnership is really awesome. Because it's funny, like these guys reached out to the downtown Truro partnership, and they were like, "Hey, listen, I'm not saying they weren't unprepared, but they're pretty much coming from like a hole in the wall. Like, no idea. The DTP doesn't know who they are. They're just a random email with some images, and they do have a corporation and whatnot. So they're serious. But then like the DTP was like, "Yep, this is what you do. This is what you do. Blah 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 blah. Here we go." And here, they're awesome.
So let's talk about our highs and lows of the week. So what was your low of the week, Dylan?
My low of the week was my whole week last week was not as busy as I'd like it to be.
Yeah.
It was a little I'll use the word mundane, but it's kind of okay to be like that, I guess. It's kind of okay. I guess the past 2 weeks have kind of been not so busy for me, but that's okay because it's kind of I got some slow time for the busy next 4 months that are around the corner.
Absolutely.
What about you?
Low of the week. I'm trying to think about my week last week. I didn't get one of my listings.
Yeah.
That I competed for, but that's okay. That's okay.
Last week, that was my low of the week too. I know how it feels.
But we also signed some listings up this week, so it's all good, right?
You win some, you lose some, right? And I guess the important thing is you win a lot more than what you lose, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about your high?
So my high was I went on Friday. So I'm the vice chair for the MLS committee for the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. So essentially, what we're going to do is be giving input to our Paragon system and what happens with that. Mm-hmm. And part of that, we had to take leadership training, which I've never done before. So we got to learn all about boards and how they're structured and how motions are passed and strategic planning and how to ask questions and how to behave in a board.
Yep.
They wanted to whip us all in shape, I guess, so we don't go in there and start spouting off, but that's okay.
Yep.
So it was really great. I sat with a table of really fun people. So we had, I think there was 5 or 6 of us at the table, and we were you had to come up with ideas for meeting snacks. And I think we ended up settling on eggs Benedict and wine. But anyways,
perfect. What a great meeting snack.
Yeah, what a great meeting snack, right? So anyways, it was just a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and that was really good. And I got to learn some stuff. It was a really dry content, but I showed out to the instructor. I think his name was Wayne. He did a really great job because that stuff can be really boring, but I learned a lot and remember it all, so that was good. And how about your high of the week?
Definitely, unfortunately, the opposite of your low. I won a listing that I was competing against multiple different agents for, so that's awesome.
Nice.
And that goes back to, once again, being prepared and whatnot. But that definitely my high of the week. So that should be coming to market hopefully within the next little bit. We'll have to see.
Wonderful.
One thing I wanted to mention, and I didn't before, but I wanted to bring it up in the podcast. So Truro has a newer organization called the Truro Colchester Welcome Network.
Right.
So I was a volunteer of that Welcome Network, and we had a meeting last week, and I was kind of volunteered that I'm the co-chair.
Oh, nice.
Of that network. So I'm under the steering committee, and I have a fantastic co-chair with me as well. Her name's Claudia. So really excited about that.
That's really nice.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. And then hopefully there's one other. I'm waiting to hear back one other thing in regards to. Well, I said I nominated myself for the board of directors for the Downtown Truro Partnership.
Did you find it when you find out about that?
20th of June.
Oh, so we still got some time.
Yeah. Although I'm sure it'll be here tomorrow. It'll feel like because time's flying, right?
Absolutely.
Once, like we said, next week we're gonna have a guest on, and I think it's gonna be a longer episode.
Yep.
I hope anyway. So maybe it's a construction developer, Maybe it's a home inspector.
Maybe it's a mortgage broker.
Maybe it's another realtor. Maybe it's a first-time home buyer. These are all great ideas.
Yeah. And if you have any ideas, let us know too. But I'm excited for next week. So
100%.
we'll sign off and say thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week.
See you later. Thanks.
Bye bye.